Ethan Cole was not a hero, not a soldier, and not someone important in the eyes of the world. He was just a quiet space engineer working on an orbital signal station floating far above Earth. His job was simple. He listened to space, he repaired broken antennas, and he checked weak signals coming from deep space. Most days were calm and boring, filled with static noise and blinking screens. And sometimes he joked that even aliens were not interested in talking to humans. One night the station hosted a live galactic culture exchange stream where humans and friendly alien races asked each other simple questions. It was meant to build trust and peace. Ethan was invited because he understood alien communication systems better than most people. During the stream, a blue-skinned alien diplomat asked him through the translator why humans hide their relationship status and why many say they are single even if they are not. The room laughed softly, and Ethan smiled in his usual awkward way. He did not think much before answering. He said in a light, joking tone that he was completely single and alone and no one on Earth wanted him. He even raised his hands in fake sadness to make people laugh. The human crew laughed. Some aliens blinked in confusion. And the moment passed like any other small joke, but somewhere far beyond Earth, 3 powerful alien sisters were watching the broadcast very carefully. They belonged to the Lytherian warrior race, a proud and strong species that followed ancient bonding laws. In their culture, when someone publicly declared they were unclaimed, it was not a joke. It was a serious statement. It meant that the person was open to be chosen and protected under sacred law. The sisters stared at the screen as Ethan's words were translated into their language. Their eyes glowed softly, and something ancient awakened inside them. The oldest sister, Kaylee's, felt a strange pull in her chest. The middle sister, Naira, smiled in interest, and the youngest, Vereen, leaned closer to the screen as if she had found something valuable. Their ship's artificial intelligence began to scan Ethan's voice pattern and heart rhythm through the broadcast signal. The results showed rare compatibility with Lytherian energy signatures, something that almost never happened with humans. Kaylee spoke calmly and said that the human male had declared himself and bonded before many worlds. And according to their tradition, that was a universal call. Naira teased that maybe fate had a sense of humor, and Vereen simply said they should go and see him in person. Within minutes, their massive silver cruiser changed direction and entered high-speed travel toward Earth space. Back on the station, Ethan had already forgotten about his joke. He finished his shift, drank his usual late-night coffee, and looked out at the stars through the observation window. He sometimes felt small when looking at space, like he did not truly belong anywhere. He did not know that. Someone had just decided he belonged to them. The next morning, everything changed. Loud alarms shook the station. Red warning lights flashed across the walls, and the calm silence of orbit turned into panic. Ethan rushed to the main control room with the rest of the crew. On the giant screen outside the station, a huge, unknown ship had appeared without warning. It was beautiful and sharp like a blade made of light. Its surface shining silver with soft purple lines glowing across it. Earth Defense Command tried to contact the ship, but the only message that came back was short and clear. We have come to claim the unbonded human male who declared himself alone. Silence filled the control room. Slowly, every face turned toward Ethan. His heart began to beat fast, his mouth went dry, and he whispered that it was only a joke, but the universe did not laugh this time. The alien ship began docking procedures without asking permission. Powerful energy fields surrounded the station, making escape impossible. Ethan felt fear rising inside him, but also confusion. Why him? Why would powerful alien warriors travel across stars because of one simple sentence? Minutes later, the docking tunnel locked into place with a heavy metallic sound. The station doors slowly opened, and 3 tall figures stepped inside, wearing shining armor that reflected the station lights. Their presence was strong and calm at the same time. They looked directly at Ethan as if they had known him for years. Kaylee spoke first through a clear translator and said that he had called, and they had answered. Naira's eyes scanned him with playful interest, and Vereen stood close behind like a silent guardian. Ethan realized that his small joke had crossed the stars and turned into something serious, something ancient, and something that might change his life forever. And before the story continues, the channel gently invites viewers to subscribe so they do not miss what happens next in this unbelievable journey. The air inside the station felt heavier the moment the three Lytherian sisters stepped fully through the docking tunnel. Their silver armor carried faint, glowing lines that moved like living light across the metal, and every step they took echoed softly in the silent hallway. The human crew did not know whether to run or salute, because the sisters did not look like invaders. But they also did not look like guests. They moved with calm control, as if they already understood the space around them. Kaylee's walked in front with steady eyes that showed both intelligence and authority. Naira followed with a slight smile that looked playful but hid sharp awareness. And Vereen stayed half a step behind Ethan's position, as if she had already decided her role was to guard him. Ethan tried to speak, but his throat felt tight. He raised his hands slowly to show he meant no harm, and in a weak voice he said again that his words were only a joke. But Kaylee stopped just a few feet away from him and answered in clear, simple English that Lytherians do not treat public declarations as jokes. She explained that when someone announces they are bonded before many civilizations, it becomes a recorded truth under galactic tradition, and tradition is not something her people ignore. The control room screens suddenly flickered as Earth Defense Forces demanded to know the alien intentions. Outside the window, more small ships appeared around the large cruiser, not attacking, only waiting. Watching, ready, Naira turned her head slightly toward the window and said softly that they did not come for war. But if war came, they would finish it quickly. The calm way she said it made several officers step back in fear. Ethan felt caught between two worlds, his own people staring at him like he had started a crisis, and three powerful beings looking at him like he was something important. Kaylee's activated a small holographic device from her wrist, and an ancient symbol appeared in the air. Between them, she explained that in Lytherian society, sisters form a bonded triad, and they choose one partner not for control, but for balance, strength, and future legacy. Naira added that such bonding is rare and sacred, and never offered lightly. Vereen finally spoke in a quiet but firm voice, saying that their ship AI detected high compatibility in Ethan's biological and neural patterns, something that had not been seen with humans before. Ethan blinked in confusion because he was not special. He was not a soldier or leader. He fixed broken transmitters and complained about long shifts. Yet these warriors spoke of him like he was part of prophecy. The tension in the station grew worse when a sudden external alert sounded again. Unknown vessels had entered the outer orbit zone. This time, not Lytherian ships, but dark pirate crafts that had likely tracked the advanced cruiser's energy signature. The main screen showed rough and heavily armed ships forming attack positions. Earth Command began preparing defenses, but their weapons were limited compared to what now surrounded the station. Kaylee's looked at the tactical display for only a second before giving silent signals to her sisters through what seemed like a shared mental link. Naira's playful expression disappeared and became focused and sharp. Vereen moved slightly closer to Ethan and placed a small metallic band around his wrist without asking. She said it was a protective field generator tuned to their energy, and it would keep him alive if chaos started. Ethan wanted to protest, but explosions flashed in the distance outside the station windows as pirate ships fired warning shots. The pirates sent a message mocking both humans and Lytherians, demanding surrender of advanced technology. And when their scanners detected human life signs, they laughed openly at the idea that Earth was being defended by an unclaimed male. The insult clearly meant to provoke. Kaylee's eyes glowed brighter for a moment, but she did not lose control. Instead, she looked at Ethan and asked him a question that surprised everyone. She asked if he wished to hide behind station walls or stand beside them and witness how Lytherians protect what answers their call. Ethan's heart pounded so loudly he felt it in his ears. Fear told him to step back, but something deeper told him that running now would define the rest of his life. He slowly shook his head and said he would not hide. Naira gave a small approving nod, and Vereen adjusted the band on his wrist, as if preparing him for something bigger than he understood. The station lights dimmed as power was redirected to shields. Outside, the first real blasts of battle lit up space in violent flashes. And in that moment, Ethan realized he was no longer just a man who made a careless joke. He was standing at the center of a storm that connected Earth, alien warriors, and unknown enemies. Surrounded by sisters who treated him not as a stranger, but as someone already claimed by destiny. And the true test of what that meant was about to begin. The first real explosion shook the station so hard that loose tools slid across the floor and several crew members grabbed the nearest rail to keep from falling. Outside, the wide observation window space no longer looked silent and peaceful, but alive with fire and moving shadows. Pirate ships shaped like broken metal claws spread out in attack formation, while the smooth silver Lytherian cruiser rotated slowly between them and the station like a shield. Bright beams of energy cut across the darkness, leaving glowing scars that faded after seconds. Ethan stood frozen for a brief moment as warning sirens screamed around him. But Kaylee's did not hesitate. She tapped commands into a floating holographic panel that appeared from her armor, and instantly smaller Lytherian fighters launched from hidden sections of their cruiser. They moved with perfect control and impossible speed, like streaks of light guided by a single mind. Naira stepped closer to the main tactical screen and began speaking quick instructions in her own language while the translator struggled to keep up. Vereen remained beside Ethan, her eyes scanning every movement in the room as if she could sense danger before machines detected it. The pirate leader's voice suddenly filled all communication channels with rough laughter. He mocked Earth's weak defenses and called the Lytherians foolish for traveling so far for one human male. His ships began firing directly at the station instead of the cruiser, trying to force panic and surrender. The first impact hit the outer shield, and the entire structure vibrated violently. Lights flickered, and one side of the control room filled with smoke from a damaged console. Human officers rushed to stabilize systems, but they were not prepared for this level of attack. Ethan felt fear rise in his chest again, but this time it mixed with anger. This was his station, his workplace, his small piece of the universe, and it was under threat because of him. Another missile broke through the outer defensive grid and locked onto the communication wing, where Ethan had spent most of his nights repairing old transmitters. Without waiting for permission, he ran toward the engineering console, ignoring shouts behind him. His mind switched into problem-solving mode the way it always did during technical failures. He saw that the station's shield frequency was not matching the pirate weapon pattern, so he manually rerouted power from long-range signal amplifiers into the shield generator, fingers moving fast across the interface while explosions echoed outside. Vereen followed him silently and stood like a wall between him and flying debris as another blast rocked the station. Kaylee's noticed what Ethan was doing, and for the first time her calm face showed surprise. The next pirate missile struck directly against the communication wing, but instead of tearing through metal, it exploded against the newly strengthened shield in a bright wave of light. Cheers broke out among the crew. Ethan did not stop. He adjusted shield modulation again to reduce power drain and shouted that they could hold longer if the Lytherians pushed the pirates back now. Naira laughed sharply and said she liked a human who learned fast under fire. Outside, the battle grew more intense. Lytherian fighters darted through pirate formations, disabling engines and weapons with precise strikes. The pirates were aggressive, but uncoordinated while the sisters' fleet moved like parts of a single body. Still, the pirate leader refused to retreat and redirected all heavy cannons toward the station core in one final attempt to destroy it. A massive blast began charging on the largest pirate ship, glowing dark red like a rising star. Everyone in the control room watched in horror, knowing that if it fired at full power, the station would not survive even with modified shields. Kaylee's made a quick decision and ordered her cruiser to intercept the blast path, even if it meant taking direct damage. But before she could complete the command, Ethan noticed something on the tactical map. The pirate flagship's power core was unstable from earlier hits. If its own charged weapon was disrupted at the right moment, it would overload. He pointed this out quickly and suggested focusing concentrated fire on a specific exhaust vent that he marked on the screen. Naira transmitted the targeting data without hesitation, trusting his calculation. Vereen tightened her grip on her weapon and watched the external feed closely. Seconds felt like minutes as the pirate cannon reached full charge. Then 3 Lytherian fighters broke formation and shot precise beams into the vent Ethan had identified. For one breath, nothing happened. Then the pirate flagship shook violently, Its red glow flickered out of control, and in a sudden flash of white light the ship exploded from within, sending shockwaves through nearby vessels. Smaller pirate ships scattered in panic and began retreating away. From Earth orbit, silence slowly replaced chaos. Broken pieces of metal drifted through space like dark snow. Inside the station, the alarms faded one by one. Ethan leaned against the console, breathing hard, his hands shaking now that the danger was passing. Kaylee's walked toward him slowly and looked at him not as someone claimed by law, but as someone who had stood beside them in battle. Naira crossed her arms with clear pride. And even quiet Vereen allowed a small approving nod. Earth's orbit was safe for now, and the galaxy had just seen a human engineer help turn the tide of his first space battle. Ethan realized with a deep and heavy understanding that this was only the beginning, because surviving one fight meant becoming part of a much larger story that had already started writing itself among the stars. After the battle, the station slowly returned to a fragile calm. Damaged panels were repaired, injured crew members were treated, and outside, the shattered remains of pirate ships drifted silently in Earth's orbit like a warning to anyone watching. But inside the main conference chamber, a different kind of tension was building. Ethan sat across from the three Lytherian sisters at a long metallic table, while human commanders observed from safe distance. No weapons were drawn now, yet the air felt heavier than during the fight. Kaylee stood tall and placed a small crystal device on the table. When she activated it, a soft purple light filled the room, and ancient symbols began to rotate in the air above them. She explained in calm, simple English that their arrival was not guided by emotion alone. Long before Ethan was born, the Lytherians recorded a prophecy inside their Central War archive. It spoke of a distant star male from a young world, a male who would not carry the strength of warriors in his body, but would carry balance in his mind, someone who would stand in the center of chaos and choose logic over fear. Naira stepped closer and added that many believe the prophecy was only symbolic, a story told to inspire unity among sisters. But their ship's ancient AI had reacted the moment Ethan spoke during the broadcast. It detected vocal frequencies and neural patterns matching fragments of that prophecy code. Vereen's eyes remained locked on Ethan as she quietly said that. Compatibility readings during the battle increased beyond prediction when he acted without command to protect others. Ethan felt overwhelmed hearing his life reduced to patterns and predictions. He shook his head and said he was not chosen by fate. He was just scared and trying to survive. But Kaylee's did not argue. She said prophecy does not remove choice. It only opens a door, and walking through it is always voluntary. Earth officials demanded clarification, worried that such beliefs might turn Ethan into a political symbol or a religious figure among aliens. Naira responded with surprising honesty, saying the Lytherians did not worship prophecy. They tested it. If Ethan had hidden during battle or acted selfishly, they would have erased the claim and left quietly. Vereen then deactivated the crystal device, and the glowing symbols vanished, leaving only silence. Kaylee stepped forward and removed a small piece of her armored gauntlet, placing it gently on the table in front of Ethan. She explained that according to their law, if a triad falsely claims someone under prophecy, they lose honor and command status, meaning their careers and family lines would end. This was not a game for them. It was a risk. Ethan looked at the three sisters differently now, not as powerful beings who came to take him, but as warriors who were also gambling their future on him. Before he could respond, another alert interrupted the meeting. Long-range scanners detected unknown encrypted signals near the outer solar boundary. Not pirate codes this time, but something older and far more advanced. The Lytherian cruiser's AI identified fragments of the same ancient language used in their prophecy archive. The room fell silent again. Naira whispered that no one outside their highest council should have access to that code. Kaylee's expression hardened as she realized someone else might also be searching for the distant star male mentioned in the prophecy. Vereen instinctively moved closer to Ethan, not out of ownership but protection, as if unseen eyes were suddenly watching him from deep space. The human commanders exchanged worried looks, because this was no longer about one joke or one battle. This was about forces moving in the dark beyond their understanding. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine as he understood that his careless sentence had not only reached honorable warriors, but possibly something far more dangerous. Kayleigh turned toward him and spoke in a lower voice, saying that if the prophecy was awakening beyond Lytherian control, then staying on the station might place Earth in greater danger. Naira added that enemies who believe in destiny often try to control it, and Vereen quietly said that running from it would not make it disappear. Ethan looked through the window at Earth shining blue and peaceful below, unaware of hidden signals traveling through space toward it. Suspense tightened around the room like an invisible net, because the truth was becoming clear. This was not simply a cultural misunderstanding or a romantic claim. It was the beginning of something ancient moving again after centuries of silence. And whether Ethan accepted it or denied it, the universe had already started reacting to his existence, waiting to see what choice he would make next. The mysterious ancient signal did not stay hidden for long. Within days, a direct transmission cut through every defense frequency around Earth. It carried a symbol older than the Lytherian archives and a voice that sounded calm but cold. The being on the other side did not shout or threaten wildly like the pirates had done. Instead, it spoke with controlled confidence. It said the prophecy did not belong to the Lytherians alone, and that the distant star mail must be tested under universal right, not protected like fragile treasure. The message ended with coordinates near a dead asteroid field beyond Mars' orbit and a simple challenge. Send a human to prove his worth or accept that he is unfit and surrender all claim. Fear spread quickly among Earth leaders. Some argued that Ethan should refuse and remain under planetary protection. Others worried that refusing could bring a larger unseen force directly to Earth. Aboard the Lytherian cruiser, Kayleigh stood in silent thought while Naira, paced with visible frustration, and Vereen watched Ethan carefully, waiting for his reaction rather than speaking for him. Ethan felt anger and doubt fighting inside his chest. He had never asked for prophecy or ancient codes. Yet now, unknown powers were deciding if he was worthy to exist beside the sisters. He asked what the test would involve, and Kayleigh answered honestly that such rites were often combat trials designed to measure courage, intelligence, and will, not just physical strength. Naira added that many warriors had died in similar challenges across history, and Vereen quietly said that if he chose not to go, they would defend that choice without shame. That simple statement changed everything for Ethan, because for the first time he understood that he was not being pushed forward, he was being given real choice. Outside the ship, Earth's orbit looked peaceful again, but tension moved beneath the surface like a hidden storm. After hours of thought, Ethan finally said he would go. Not because prophecy demanded it, and not because the galaxy expected it, but because he was tired of being the reason others fought in his place. He wanted to stand for himself. The coordinates led them to a dark region filled with broken asteroids drifting slowly like silent witnesses. At the center floated a massive, ancient structure carved directly into a hollowed rock, glowing faintly with symbols that matched the signal. Multiple alien ships from distant systems waited at the edge of the field, observing without interference. The event had become something like a public judgment watched by species who respected old laws. Ethan stepped onto the landing platform, wearing a lighter version of Lytherian armor designed to protect, but not overpower him. Kayleigh placed a hand over his shoulder and said strength is calm decision under pressure. Naira gave him a small grin, telling him not to embarrass them. And Vereen adjusted the energy band on his wrist, ensuring their link remained stable, but limited so he would fight mostly on his own ability. The entrance to the ancient structure opened slowly, revealing a circular arena inside lit by cold blue light. At the center stood a tall, armored figure from the same unknown faction that sent the message, its face hidden behind a dark mask, its voice echoing through the chamber as it explained the test would have 3 phases: mind, endurance, and confrontation. The first phase began immediately as the arena floor shifted into a complex pattern of moving platforms and energy barriers. Ethan realized it was not about strength, but problem-solving under pressure. He studied the rhythm of the moving pieces and timed his steps carefully. Once he nearly fell into an energy gap, but regained balance by predicting the cycle instead of reacting blindly. Whispers spread among observing ships as the human completed the first phase faster than expected. The second phase tested endurance as gravity inside the chamber increased. Slowly, while cold air drained warmth from his armor, sweat formed on his forehead and his muscles shook, but he remembered long nights on the station, working through exhaustion, and kept steady breathing instead of panicking. Finally, the third phase began as the armored challenger stepped forward, activating a glowing blade. The confrontation was direct combat. The alien moved with trained precision, stronger and faster than Ethan. The first strikes forced him backward across the arena floor. Sparks flew when energy blades clashed against his defensive field. Fear tried to rise again, but he remembered the pirate battle and how thinking had saved lives. Instead of matching force with force, he observed patterns in the opponent's attacks, noticing a slight delay after every third strike. When the next cycle came, he dodged sideways instead of back and used the arena's own unstable floor to his advantage, causing the armored figure to lose footing for a brief second. That single moment allowed Ethan to disarm the opponent by redirecting its energy blade into a control pillar which overloaded and shut the weapon down. Silence filled the arena as the challenger stepped back, acknowledging defeat, not with anger, but with a respectful nod. The ancient voice returned, declaring the human had passed the right not through dominance, but through adaptive intelligence and controlled courage. Outside in the asteroid field, ships transmitted the result across networks. Kaylee's felt pride. Without possession, Naira's eyes shone with excitement, and Vereen allowed herself a rare soft smile. Ethan stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard, realizing he had just faced a judgment older than most civilizations, and survived not as prophecy's puppet, but as himself. And though the test was complete, the feeling in the dark space beyond the asteroid field suggested that even greater forces had now taken notice of the human who refused to fall. The moment the ancient arena declared Ethan worthy, the transmission spread across every major network in the solar system. Human satellites replayed the trial from multiple angles. Alien observers shared their own recordings, and within hours Earth was no longer whispering about the space engineer who made a joke, but speaking about the human who passed a right older than empires. In cities across the planet, people gathered around giant screens, watching the final moment when the armored challengers stepped back in respect. Some cheered with pride. Others felt uneasy because pride often brings attention, and attention in the galaxy could mean danger. Governments quickly called emergency meetings. Military leaders questioned what this public victory meant for Earth's future security. Cultural experts debated whether Ethan's connection to the Lytherian sisters would change human traditions. And news anchors repeated one question again and again. Was he still just a citizen, or had he become something more? Aboard the Lytherian cruiser orbiting near the moon, Ethan watched the reactions with mixed emotion. He never wanted fame. Yet now his name moved through the air like a symbol. Kaylee stood beside him in quiet strength, explaining that in many systems, passing such a test creates a recognized bond beyond simple claim. It means the individual stands as equal participant in alliance, not protected property. Naira scrolled through human social feeds with open curiosity and slight amusement, pointing out how quickly fear turned into admiration, while Vereen monitored long-range sensors because attention always attracts hidden watchers. Earth's United Council finally requested a direct meeting, not through broadcast, but face-to-face, and this time it was not a defensive demand but a formal invitation. When the cruiser descended through the atmosphere, escorted by human jets, the sky itself seemed to hold its breath. Crowds gathered near the landing zone, unsure whether to wave or step back. The sisters exited first with controlled posture, showing no sign of threat. Then Ethan followed, wearing simple human clothing instead of armor, a quiet reminder that he still belonged to Earth. Cameras captured every movement as he walked into the council chamber, where leaders from many nations waited. The room felt tense, but not hostile. One council member asked him directly whether he felt controlled by alien law. Ethan answered honestly that he felt challenged, respected, and sometimes confused, but never forced. Another leader questioned the Lytherians about long-term intention. Kaylee's responded that their society values balance and strength through unity, not conquest, and that any alliance would be built on shared defense and knowledge exchange. Nyra added in simple terms that if enemies targeted Earth because of prophecy, they would stand in front of that threat without hesitation. Vareen remained silent, yet her presence alone carried clear meaning. Outside, the chamber protests and celebrations both filled the streets. Some humans feared cultural change or dependency on alien protection. Others saw hope for technology, exploration, and a future beyond constant isolation. During the meeting, an unexpected alert interrupted discussion. Deep space monitors detected multiple distant warp signatures observing the solar system, but not entering. It was clear that unknown factions were watching to see how Earth responded to this new alliance. Suspense returned like a shadow across the bright room. Because public recognition meant public responsibility, Ethan realized that passing the test was not the end, but the beginning of heavier decisions. The Council finally proposed a limited alliance treaty focused on defense and research rather than full political union, giving humanity time to adapt. Kaylee's agreed without hesitation, showing that partnership mattered more than control. When the session ended, Ethan stepped outside where the crowd had grown silent, waiting for some sign. He did not give a grand speech. He simply said that humans were not small and not alone anymore, and that fear should not decide their future. The simple words carried more weight than dramatic promises. High above in orbit, the Lytherian cruiser remained like a silver guardian against the dark, and beyond the outer planets, faint signals still moved through space, reminding everyone that the galaxy had noticed Earth's choice, and whatever came next would test not only one man's worth, but an entire world's courage. The days after the council meeting passed with strange calm. Like the quiet before a storm that had not yet chosen where to strike, Earth adjusted slowly to the idea that it was no longer only a small blue planet in a dark sky, but a world connected to powerful forces beyond its orbit. The Alliance Treaty was signed with careful limits. Research teams began sharing controlled data with Lytherian scientists, and defense networks quietly synchronized with alien technology that moved faster and thought smarter than anything humans had built before. Yet beyond the edge of the solar system, those distant warp signatures still appeared and disappeared like shadows testing the light. Ethan felt that remaining on Earth too long would only turn him into a symbol, standing still while danger gathered momentum. One evening, he stood again at the observation deck of the Lytherian cruiser, looking down at the planet that had shaped him. Oceans glowing under moonlight and city lights shining like fragile stars. Kaylee's joined him first and spoke in her steady voice, saying that leadership sometimes means walking away from comfort to protect it from afar. Nyra leaned against the railing with unusual seriousness, admitting that enemies were already studying new ways to challenge the prophecy now that it had proven real, and Vareen stood close enough for him to feel the calm strength she carried, reminding him without words that whatever choice he made would not be faced alone. Ethan realized that staying on Earth would only invite future threats directly toward his home, but traveling outward would draw those threats away, while allowing him to understand the larger game forming in deep space. He requested one final private call with his parents, promising them that he was not running from Earth, but moving ahead of danger. Their mixed pride and worry strengthened his resolve rather than weakened it. When the departure day came, there were no loud celebrations, only quiet watchers as the silver cruiser rose smoothly from its launch platform and moved toward the upper atmosphere. Human defense satellites saluted with coded light pulses while Lytherian escort ships formed protective formation around their command vessel. Once clear of Earth's gravity, the stars opened wide in every direction, beautiful and endless, yet hiding secrets within their glow. Inside the command chamber, Kaylee's displayed a new star map that revealed unstable regions where ancient signals were growing. Stronger, Nyra pointed to trade routes recently attacked by unknown fleets using technology similar to the arena structure, and Vareen confirmed that multiple species were forming silent coalitions in response. It was clear that Ethan's trial had not ended a prophecy, but activated it across the galaxy. Instead of fear, he felt a strange calm excitement, because for the first time he was not reacting to events, but choosing to step into them. He suggested that rather than waiting for enemies to gather, they should investigate the origin of the ancient code itself, tracing it back to its first appearance in recorded history. Kayleys considered the idea and nodded slowly, recognizing strategy in his thinking. Naira smiled with renewed energy at the thought of chasing answers instead of defending borders, and Vereen activated the navigation sequence without hesitation. The cruiser aligned with coordinates far beyond explored territory, where stars were older and fewer ships dared to travel. As warp engines powered up, the entire vessel vibrated with rising energy. Outside, the viewport's starlight stretched into bright lines, preparing to fold into faster-than-light motion. Ethan took one last look at the shrinking image of Earth, now a small glowing sphere behind them. Not as something he had left behind, but as something he carried forward in responsibility. The galaxy ahead was uncertain, filled with hidden empires, forgotten weapons, and civilizations that might welcome or fear what he represented. But he no longer felt like a man who had made a careless joke. He felt like a bridge walking into the unknown with warriors who chose him not out of ownership, but respect. When the cruiser finally leapt into warp and the stars vanished in a brilliant white, a new chapter began, not written by prophecy alone, but by shared choice. And somewhere in the deep, dark regions of space, unseen observers adjusted their plans, because the human they expected to hide had instead stepped boldly beyond the stars, together with the sisters who once surrounded him, ready to face whatever waited in the silence ahead.